Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another episode of Random Thoughts Some Useful, where the thoughts are totally unplanned, often random, but somehow always useful. I'm your host, Jen Brown, cancer survivor, empowerment coach, and lifelong truth seeker. Around here, nothing's off limits. We talk about gut health and God, mindset and medical gaslighting, frequency, food, and all the quiet ways we come back home to ourselves. Most episodes, no script, no agenda, just a mic, a moment, and whatever truth needs to come through. Like, share, and subscribe if something lands. And if you want to support the podcast or buy us a cup of coffee, you can cash app us at Apothecaring Jen. Let's get into it. So in college, I was able to take a couple of different courses after intro to psych that were more on the sociology side, that were marriage and family relationships, race and ethnicities, human sexuality, and just kind of different things like that. And then I'm sure you can relate, like being exposed to being deployed and just different cultures overseas, and how the whole world is out there and it totally operates like in so many similarities also, but in a lot of ways totally different than we do over here in America.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, that's kind of where I was like, gosh, I guess we could just kind of open up there, because what prompted me to reach out to you the other day and schedule this real quick. So I had reached out. I saw you post something on Facebook or one of the social media somewhere about racism, and I just had. It really resonated with me, and I just wanted to have the conversation about it, because it's so hard to get anyone to kind of have a conversation about those kinds of things. I was trying to see if I could find it.
Well, let's get it. Let's jump into it.
Because it's just crazy to me that we still have racism today in 2025. And I kind of feel like because we talk about racism, we keep like feeding energy to it, kind of type thing. But I don't feel like anyone is having this kind of conversation, like what your post was. Right. Go ahead and tell us, like, what was the meme that prompted me to reach out to have this conversation?
So honestly, the post was one of my friends, I'll leave him unnameless, had just said something, and it struck a nerve with me. And this happens, probably once a month. Someone will say something around me, and it'll just strike a nerve, and they don't even realize that it's maybe a tinge on the racist side, or maybe it's just you're coming from a mindset that should not even belong anymore. And, when I got into the military and went to the boot camp, it's a whirlwind. It just keeps screaming, yelling, all kinds of, everything's going on. You have no clue what's what. I couldn't tell you how many races were there in that barracks room. I know there was a Russian, because I didn't know what he was saying half the time. It wasn't until I got to my first, duty station, or even my tech school, where it's just shared trauma. Everybody's been through the same thing. So there is no stigmas. You're all shaved head. You're all shared trauma. I got to, experience Indian food. I got to go to my friend's house up in Long Beach. He's Mongolian and speaks Tagalog. I got to do all of that only to realize, like, we're all the same, just in different areas of life, different upbringing, because of our family's background. So kind of took that throughout my whole time while I was in the Marine Corps. I did bring one of my friends here. He was, Paz. What was Paz Cogwin? I want to say he was Philippine. Sounds about right. But I brought him down here, and he got to enjoy being with my family and see how we lived. And that 24-hour drive back to California, he kind of came to the same conclusion, like, how in the hell could racism even be a thing anymore? If you just drop your guard and drop like, oh, we're here, you're there, we're better than you, you're whatever it is, you start to realize we're all the same, fighting the same demons and the same battles, just with different masks.
Yeah.
And I posted that just so, hey, maybe someone will see this and go, what the hell is this about?
Yeah.
Because if you're asking yourself that question, that's a start.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all that was.
Exactly. That's really interesting that you put it that way, because if you're asking yourself that question, that's the start, and that's the key to everything. That's the key to any change in life, like to any self-analyzation, no matter what the subject is, whatever the title, right, is being able to actually look and analyze, and instead of getting overwhelmed and shaming yourself, saying, okay, well, making a conscious decision, that's not how I want to be anymore. So what can I add to my life that can help reshape my views, or my actual, if you want to get down to the neuroscience of it, like we literally, our brain synapses, whenever we have something that we do repetitive or think repetitive, we're developing neural pathways, and those literally over time, doing it over and over again, it becomes a rut in our brain, in the pathway, just like a rut in the road that is, you can get in and hard to get out of sometimes, and you have to start to carve a new path, literally, neuroscientifically carve a new path by choosing a different thought, choosing a different way, a different, whatever the word is, action.
Right.
To literally retrain your brain so that you can stop those negative thoughts or whatever that is that you're trying to change.
And say it's not even negative. I've got people that are like, oh, I've got Mexican friends, or I've got black friends, or whatever, but they're doing the same kind of things you're doing. Maybe you're friends with them because y'all like sound systems, or maybe you hang out with them when you're at the gun range, or whatever it is. Okay, yeah, you've got a different ethnicity friend, but they're doing the same thing as you.
Common interests.
Go do something different.
Yeah.
So with my kids, I've taken them to eat every different type of food you could think of. I've taken them into Bricktown and tried to get into the ugly areas. We were passing through Louisiana, and I took them down on Bourbon Street.
Good.
I wanted them to see everything.
Yes, not be fearful of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was mainly just so that they didn't form those pathways that go, they're not like me. And if you do the things I do, it doesn't matter what color you are. If you don't, then I can have a prejudice against you.
Right.
And it's not even racism. I think at this time it's just prejudice.
Yeah.
And
I
don't know why you do what you do, and I don't agree with it.
Right.
Now there's certain things I completely understand. You can hold prejudice against that. But when I hear words thrown around, or look at that, let's look at that thug with his pants hanging down. You may not know it. He could not own a belt, and he literally isn't sagging on purpose.
Yeah.
Or you can see someone and say, oh, he's going to be shipped back because he's illegal. He may have been born 3 miles down the road from you, and has been here his whole life.
Yeah.
He just happens to have a very thick look to him.
Yeah, or be bilingual.
Yeah, and then that's kind of that was the whole reason for the post, is quit being so narrow-minded and stuck in your ways that you don't even see your own fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So, gosh, we were talking earlier a little bit before we hit record
got a little heavy.
No, that's great. This is what this podcast is about. And actually, so I was about to say about power and taking your power back, and that's where we can go next. But first, I want you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit. You can definitely do it better than me, but we go way back. We were family at one point. Our grandparents were married, and we're still family as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you spend so much time when you're little with people, and we spent a lot of time together as families.
A lot of time in the Oaks.
Yeah, lots of time. So, and I remember coming out there in the country with you guys. Your mama would always cut my hair when I was a little girl, and I mean, you guys are the sweetest family. And then growing up, we would, pass each other's in halls or see each other's at games and that kind of stuff. We were all competitive athletes. We had 3 in our family and 3 in yours, but you guys were all boys. And then I was the oldest of 2, oldest of 3, and then 5 and 6 years older than my brother and sister. But you guys were all just kind of stair steps, maybe a couple of years apart, a year or so apart of each of you.
Josh was 4 years older than me, and Jared was a year. younger than me.
Okay.
So
Okay.
obviously that middle child syndrome, it's always there.
Yeah.
But that kind of puts your back against the wall from the get-go, right? You've got the firstborn who can do no wrong, and the lastborn who's the baby and can do no wrong.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I'm just going to set the bar.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. I love that. So let's just get right into that then. How did that shape you as far as the way that you view life and approach adversity? And have you always been where you are now, or is this something that you've had to learn through some of your experiences? And also, real quick, again, in your background, just kind of walk us through. You mentioned that you were a Marine. So right out of high school, you went into...
About a year out.
Okay.
I made a bad choice and got a DUI at 18, and I said, this is not for me, this is not the life I'm supposed to have, and I decided right then to make a change.
Great.
So I left.
Yeah.
And Mom and Dad weren't happy.
I'm sure.
It's been the best thing that I ever did, you know. It was able to put some strength underneath my legs on my own accord.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I had a protective older brother, so if I messed up or whatever, he was probably the one that got me to mess up, but he was also the one to cover it for me.
Okay.
So having that kind of protection around you made it, you know, not as bad, but I didn't really ever step into my own skin and my own strength until I went to the Marine Corps and got in my own skin and had to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And for some reason I excelled. I picked up E5 Sergeant in 3 years.
Wow.
And that was just me trying to prove my worth.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody wants to prove their worth in this world or how much value they bring. Mine was just proving that I could do it. Because I'd always had someone doing it for me or showing me, hey, don't do it like this type deal. I'm the type, I gotta mess up. I gotta see what not to do and learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
If that fire's hot, let me burn my finger first.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the life I had. And then of course, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I got married and had a kid, and then that motorcycle accident took my leg. They almost were going to amputate, but they flew in the head surgeon at the last minute, and he was able to save my leg. They said I would probably never run again, so I set a mission at that point to run. And within a year, I was running.
Wow.
And then, you know, raised that kid and met the wife I'm with now, Heather. She's been amazing. We had a kid. She already had a daughter who I love like my own. And then we had a kid together, Tatum. He's our youngest at 13. And, you know, after 2 years ago when I lost my little brother, I decided at that point I was not going to stop fighting for myself, for my life.
Good.
And that's kind of where the back against the wall played in my favor, because I can swing from the corner, you know?
Yeah. Goodness. You have had so much adversity, so much that you've overcome. Is there anything, top 3 that come to mind that have really helped overcome? Well, when I lost my wife, you know, I had to cope with that. Hey, I'm 24 years old. I'm a widowed single dad. I had to decide, we can stay here and live in this, or I can say, hey, the sun's up, I'm up. Yeah. So I decided, sun's up, I'm up. And, you know, went back to college and got my degree just to one, prove I could do it, and two, so when my kids got older, they didn't have an excuse. They could say, look, I did it. You don't necessarily need a degree, but you got to do something. Yeah. You got to make a plan and stick to it. Mine, probably it took me longer to get to, but I did it. Yeah.
And then after that, you know, looking out for your own mental health and what's going to help you to navigate this world. After Jared passed, I had to figure out, one, what's my purpose, which it was easy, that's my kids. Two, how am I going to get there? Well, my dad taught me, if there's work to do it.
Yeah.
No excuses. If there's work to do it. And
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
And then, of course, you know, the acceptance. I've come to my own terms with acceptance of everything. If it happens, it happened for a reason. Don't question it, because there's no victory in that. The victory is learning from that and moving on.
Gosh.
So
Have you rehearsed this? No. You are like so just eloquently like flowing with such like just gold here. I mean, this is incredible. This is definitely God-led. I'm just so grateful that we were able to come together today for this conversation. And I love that you are willing to talk about the things that need to be talked about, so that we can heal as people, as humanities, as communities, as of the world. You know what I mean? I feel like we're bridging a gap here with this conversation. You know what I mean? Like things that we really need to discuss in a way that we can lovingly discuss. I mean, it's so much easier whenever we're like-minded, right? We have the same views. But this is really like, I kind of put it this way sometimes, like my filter first, I filter everything through efficiency. That's just how that's how I've had to figure out how to use these curses as gifts, right? Is figuring out how to compartmentalize and how to use things to like the best of my ability. Like, how's the most efficient way to make this work, right? Yeah. And then I've also been in situations. I mean, as an athlete, I think you kind of just have that subconsciously or not. You just have a way of trying to figure out the best way to do things, right? And that's all that it is for me. Like, but also when maybe women can relate to this a little bit more, but you can as a single dad for sure. And then being in the military, like being able to think quickly, but also being able to adapt quickly and being able to assess the situation very quickly and what's going to be the best route from here, really, really quickly. I've had to do that in photography. I've had to do that in hospitality, like, you know what I mean? And being able to anticipate needs. But also like understanding that if you can do that, you can save yourself so much more time. You know what I mean?
You can save yourself time, but you can also learn more when you own it.
Yes.
You can make the decision and then say, I've made it, and stay in it.
Yes.
Deal with it. Yes. If it's right, if it's wrong, one way or the other, you're going to grow or you're going to go.
Yes. I love that. Period. Yes. I love that. Gosh, I'm such a even though I do this big weave and I can have this, we're a conversation and we can go everywhere and stuff, I really, really appreciate direct communication. You know what I mean? Because you have to.
I'm a little too blunt at times.
No, I am too. Like, I often in my career, I've made people cry and I didn't mean to. Like, and they just. So let me just give a little bit of background real quick. So if you're just now coming across this podcast and who Jen is and this kind of stuff, my background. Most recently in hospitality, aside from the marketing gig that I had since 21, prior to that, I spent 8 seasons at the working for the catering company that took care was all of the suites and all of the hospitality at the Oklahoma City, where the Oklahoma City Thunder played. So I got to be in the suites, but I also we ended up taking over the ballpark where the Dodgers were. I'm not sure what they became this
Comets.
year.
They're still the Dodgers, but they're the Comets.
Right, under the Dodgers still, but they changed their name to Comets this year. Was it this season?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, anyways, them, and then we also took over the suites and concessions and all of that at OU for the football games. So I got to be, since we were suite, we just seniority, whatever, we were supervisors at OU because we went from 30 suites, 35 suites, maybe something like that, maybe 37. Anyways, at the arena where the Thunder play to over 200 suites at OU. You know what I mean? So we had to be management at that point and be supervisors. So at that point, I was on the 4th floor, which was, God bless anyone that's on the 4th floor, because that was the craziest nightmare of location I've ever been through in my life. Oh my goodness. But it was also the first year that we took over the suites over there. So we had all these kids that are students there, right? That's who are assigned to the suites there. That place back then, you could bring your own liquor. And these suite owners would just bring in all kinds. I mean, it was packed full of liquor. Every one of these suites were packed full of ungodly amounts of liquor. And it was left there every single night. They would lock it up, some not, whatever. It was just so lackadaisical when we first got there. It was just absolutely unreal. It was so crazy. And then there was no kind of like standard on presentation or anything like that as far as their food when it came to like how you would put chips in a certain, in the military.
So it was more like a rental as opposed to an experience of the suite.
Yes, it was. It was very individual, that kind of thing, and it was insane. But in the military, how doing things the same way benefits you tremendously, and how important it is to the mission, right? Well, yes, on a hospitality level, the mission is much more enjoyable and not as life-threatening and that kind of stuff, right? But I feel like it just is very simple. It's an integrity thing. You know what I mean? Or that's what it is for me. Like, I do have some major OCD, and I do have a background in, moved up in photography, ended up in DC, and I told you a little bit of my background there earlier, but, ended up with a very high-end wedding photographer, and the average booking was $12,000 just for wedding photography. So that meant that I was exposed to really, really high-end venues, designer, everything, you know what I mean? And so there's just a different level of doing things. Like we grew up on farms, right? We grew up in the country with our feet in the dirt every single day. I have literally had pig manure in my hands, and we would throw it at each other and have fights with it. You know what I mean? Like, I am a country girl through and through. My second husband used to joke with me and say stuff like, "You're a real white girl." Like, because I'm like, I had long hair, and I was super country and just, down for whatever. And I'm like, that's just me, man. I'm just me. But I don't know where I was going with all that. But I was talking about DC and just my perspective of integrity, and just the perspective of how where I got my perspective, but then also how I brought it here, because when I first started at the arena and with Levy, they had just come and from Chicago, and they're in all the different arenas and professional sports now, but at that time they were new here in Oklahoma City, and the leadership, while they may have been great at managing really fast operations, high volume type stuff, they were military. Both of my managers had a military background, and their leadership, sometimes, I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it out. Sometimes the leadership in the military, let me say this. In the corporate world, I have found is either a very militaristic style of management or a leadership style of management. And they don't often come together. You know what I mean? It's usually either one or the other. And it's way more militaristic style of management than it is leadership style of management. And so earlier we were talking about just how, what has inspired my, I guess, podcasting journey and my blogging journey, that kind of stuff, is kind of how you can relate as being a middle child, I would imagine. I being an older child, and just, it was such a fast-paced environment, there was never really any time to think and figure, my likes and desires and who I am as a person and those kind of things out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I never even explored anything artistic at all until I got into college and took that black and white photography course. You took the same course?
Yeah. So I took digital photography, black and white photography, and Microsoft, was it Paint or I don't know, what was what we used?
Photoshop.
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 Yeah. So I had to do the Photoshop. That was a fun one.
Yes.
I mean, it was trying, but
Yeah. Yeah. Great. I my toilet closet over here. Okay, so the bathroom, basically the hallway is going to be through the bathroom, right, to get to the bedroom. And I talked about how I did that because for guests, we have, my cousins and different things, like my dad's best friend I was telling you about earlier. So I don't know if I finished that story because I wanted to, somehow I have, it's just who I am. There's a big suicide awareness passion of mine, mental health awareness, just mental health and just overall health and lifestyle in general is kind of who I am, you know what I mean? And we talked about that. It's all about just however we can empower people, and usually I like to do that through perspective of others that have been through it. They're the experts as far as I'm concerned, whether they are degreed or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So anyways, rambling, I got kind of do that a lot. Where was I going with all of that? Don't remember where I was going with all that. Okay. This is where I was going with all that. Is I guess that it's because growing up there just was never any room for me to be heard, ever, whatsoever. And because of the environment that I grew up in that was very competitive just in our family. My God, our whole family, not just you and I and our families, but even like my dad's dad had 4 sisters, and then my dad has 4 sisters. So, and then they all have kids, and then they were all competitive athletes and stuff, you know what I mean? Most of them went to college on basketball. That was the thing in our family until I came along and forced everyone to make me let me play softball, and it was such a fight. But anyways, that's what I excelled at. That's what I liked, and I did not enjoy being beat up under the goal. I was tall, and so they always put me in the post position, and I don't like that. I don't like that interaction. I grew up having to fight for my life with nothing but boys in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? And in the family, you know what I mean? I felt like all I did was fight for my life growing up. I was not trying to fight for my life every basketball game either. I hated it. So I broke my dad's heart, and I stopped playing basketball, and I focused on softball. And I never thought that I was smart enough to go to college. I didn't think that I was a good enough athlete to get a scholarship. And I had 0 plans to go to college because that was not anything. It was not on my radar. I had no confidence in that whatsoever. And I didn't know what I would do. Like I just, and I didn't know I'd been groomed to go into the military. That's what my dad wanted me to do, right? So I listened to recruiters when they came to school, and I ended up verbally committing to the Marines. And then my senior year, I ended up with a full ride scholarship on softball scholarship, and I was like, okay, and I took the scholarship and didn't go into the Marines, and then I had surgery, and then I got married, and then I traveled all over the world, and here I am.
And God still got you to travel one way or another.
Yeah, and it's incredible. Gosh, my life has been just absolutely incredible. I loved every second of Germany. I mean, I got to travel all over the world over there, but I really, really enjoyed Germany. I really liked it over there. It reminded me of home.
I never got to go to Germany, but Japan, it wasn't until that second year I was there that I really enjoyed it. I embraced the culture. I went out and explored. I made friends with locals. I ended up on Japanese television for freeboarding. That was wild.
For freeboarding? Mm-hmm. What is that?
Freeboard is like a longboard, but it moves like a snowboard.
Okay.
Me and a couple of guys in my barracks went out, and we kept going to this surf shop every day and hanging out with this guy, and he had these freeboards. We're like, well, we all ride BMX or skateboard or whatever, so we got freeboards, started to learn how to do that. Hanging out with them on Friday nights, we would go to these volcanic, because Okinawa is nothing but volcano.
Okay.
So there's roads that are a mile long, straight downhill with curves, just like a snow skiing slope, We started doing that every Friday night. It was probably 8 Americans and 12 Japanese locals. Okay. And because we didn't speak Japanese very well and they didn't speak English, we had a couple that spoke Spanish. So they would translate in Spanish to each other what we were saying.
Oh, wow.
And then they ended up having a comedian from mainland Japan came over and filmed part of his TV show. So I'm on Japanese television. I have no clue what I was saying.
How funny!
I've seen the episode. I think I've got it on a disc somewhere. But yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
I bet.
Now, as far as the competitive you were talking on, obviously 3 boys. Josh is very competitive. Jared was competitive. A lot of the times we were fighting over food, or as my dad would say, a bunch of puppies around a dog food bowl.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the competitive drive to win. I had the competitive drive to be better. And that probably came from me riding. I rode my bike all the time.
Okay.
All the time. I would ride, on a Saturday, I'd go from one end of Newcastle to the other. I'd put in 28 miles a day, no problem.
Oh, wow.
And I was always trying to learn a new trick, so it was all self-internalized. I want to better myself.
Yeah.
I don't care about winning.
Yeah.
And that probably helped me on my life, on my journey anyways.
Yeah.
And then, of course, having the no fear to just jump out and try something.
Yeah.
Because that's opened up more crazy doors in my life than I could ever imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. That sink or swim, that's literally what's fueled everything with me. Like, it was never... I did leave whenever I got married and we had the opportunity to go overseas. I couldn't wait. Like, I never wanted to leave Oklahoma and my family. That was so hard on me. And it was so hard to be away with, like, the holidays and that kind of stuff. Because we had family dinner every Sunday. We have my whole life, you know what I mean? Except for whenever I wasn't here. I didn't get to be a part of it. And then Jake was deployed. And there was a time where we were all 3 overseas in Germany for 9 months together. Wow. Yeah, so Joseph and I were there first. And then Jesse and Tulio came. And he was stationed there, and then Jake was stationed after Korea. So, and we got about 9 months together. But anyways.
That's really neat.
Yeah, and so, but most of my, my competitiveness, I definitely resonate with that. It's definitely internal, and it was because wanting to get better, but needing to get better, because every role I've played for the most part was very much a sink or swim kind of type thing. I didn't get any kind of training. I just got to jump in and do it and figure it out. You know what I mean? And now I will say that when I was in high school, I worked my junior and senior year. I worked at the daycare across from the school in the toddler room. I would go there at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I would close the daycare, and then I would go from there to Mazio's and close Mazio's every night in high school.
I miss Mazio's.
I know, man, I just hear. It was so good back then. Their salad bar is just so good. There's one over in Blanchard, but it doesn't really taste the same as it did back then.
Because it's Blanchard?
Yeah, is that it? That's funny you said that. That's how I feel about Tuttle. I'm okay-ish with Blanchard, but definitely Newcastle, but even Tuttle. Like, I don't even like to drive through that town. That is so dumb. But that's how I feel about it.
It took me coming back from the military and seeing how much Newcastle has grown and doesn't look like the town I grew up in.
I know.
Tuttle feels more like Newcastle did. So,
yeah, it does.
My wife's a teacher there, so it kind of helps.
Totally get it.
It helps me to accept that.
Yeah,
area.
for sure. I mean, I'm sure if I would have ended up like that, then you just get over it. You know what I mean? But no, it's just... I think it was because there was such a rival back then with Tuttle that it doesn't seem to really be nowadays. Like, kids are kind of sweet these days, and it's nice, but it has me a little bit concerned also, just because I'm not sure that enough of the world is sweet for them yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still very unbalanced.
I mean, here we are 30, 40 years removed from our childhoods, but maybe it's a good thing that they're not so tribalistic. But at the same time, you're also too accepting, and I'm afraid that kids these days are going to accept the wrong people into their lives when they get older, and they're going to get burned. I'm watching my kids happen daily.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, it's good to be open and sweeter and nicer, but you still need to have a hard edge, because when it comes, and it's going to, you got to be able to stand up and fight back.
Yeah, you do. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to be your own advocate. Like, I'm going through that medically, major medical gaslighting my entire adult life. But then even recently with the fight with insurance, and I'm sure everyone can relate, and that's my point. Like, it shouldn't be this way. It should not. Like,
not at
I was
all.
in this industry calling for benefits and scheduling surgery and getting pre-certifications and things for in the early 2000s. I did this for an ophthalmology group, and then I did it again in the mid 2011 before I opened my massage business. I was going through still a lot of surgeries and things with all of my autoimmune problems. I ended up with endometriosis really bad, and it kept me from having kids. So thankfully, I was able to adopt my daughter when we did. But I did it again at the physical therapy clinic before I opened my massage business in there. I sat at the front desk while I was recovering from surgery and would do the same thing there, and the same fight, the same kind of fights. Like, it was just absolutely mind-boggling that here we are in 2025 and I'm having the same fight that I used to fight insurance companies with, 15, 20 years ago. Like, this just doesn't make any sense at all. And it wasn't just the insurance company, it was the pre-certification department also. Like, and to me, when I was talking earlier about an integrity problem, but it's also about a training problem, okay? So all of that coffee shop experience and all of that experience in hospitality, that, working for the catering company and assigned to all these really high volume type situations. One, you have to get very good at direct communication. Sorry. You know what I mean? You have to. It's life or death sometimes, or it's not. It may be life or death of the brand or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just going over here to Taco Bell and,
The emotions got to leave. This is how it's got to be.
Yes.
If you want to succeed, or if you want to get through this.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. I say that all the time, and I actually say that that's the exact way that you have to approach marriage. You have to approach relationships the same way. You have to take the emotionality out, and you have to treat it like a business. You have to, if you want it to succeed. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned. Now, you have to know, you have to be able to be really good at compartmentalizing and realizing when to activate what, right? Mm-hmm. You have to. Like, have you heard of love languages?
Yeah.
Or, okay, let's go there with love languages. Like, you have to, you've been in sales before? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I did a little time selling insurance.
Okay.
For State Farm. That was rough.
Okay.
I felt so evil.
I understand that. But at the same time, when you were talking with your potential client, you were having a conversation trying to get down to their basic needs within your ability to help them, correct?
That's what I thought when I got my insurance agent's licensing and did all that.
That was the idea.
That was the goal.
Yes, that was the goal.
That's why I only lasted 3 months, because
okay.
I got in there and the guy I worked for, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I won't say his name, but he was a car salesman. That's the type. He said, if they come in not prepared, you sell them everything, and it just made me feel horrible,
unethical.
And that's when I quit, and I was like, this is not for me. I'm not going to sell people stuff they don't need.
Yeah, I
but
totally get
I mean,
that.
I've done other sales, like with what I'm doing now. I'm in natural gas compression. All of my sites or my clients, I'm just there to maintain that everything operates, but I can talk with them in a way that they know I'm not out to just take all their money. I'm going to say, you need this, but we can get by with this for now. If my company ever found out, maybe I get in trouble for that, but I don't think they're going to find out, because the customers are happy.
Yeah.
And everything's still operational.
Yeah. I don't think I think that's being ethical. To me, that's integrity. You know what I mean? That's doing the right thing when no one's looking. That's the basic definition of integrity. So, no, I think I commend you on that. And then that's what so my last role, I was in marketing. We talked about that earlier, but I don't think we did on recording. But I started out in social media, and my main objectives were brand awareness, employee retention, and customer retention. And I got to be a part of the training team, as well as got to bring back our community outreach program. I got to do so many amazing things. The training program, we got to teach the fundamentals of cells. I can't remember the name of it. It's a big thing. I'll link it down below because it was a really good program, and it has a really cool kind of format in the way that it kind of builds a story the whole time and that kind of thing. But it really gets you to understand, like, taking yourself out of that salesman, like used car salesman gross, because that's how I feel about sales. It was really impactful for me as far as sales, because being an entrepreneur, that's the biggest thing that I have always struggled with is sales and advertising my business. Like, I don't even advertise my podcast, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there for the universe and God take over, you know what I mean? And he has. It's been amazing. It's small, but it's growing. But I haven't really been, again, it's a game of consistency with the algorithm. And I am very much when I'm inspired to do something person, and I enjoy having the flexibility in my schedule to take off and do whatever whenever I want to do it. Have a 4-hour conversation with my cousin that I haven't really had a conversation with ever in our adult life, other than, hey, how are you doing, man? You know, I remember there was one time that we met. We were both at the gas station over here near us. We weren't there for very long, but we had a little bit of a good conversation then and got to connect then. And I don't know if you remember
tried to
that,
make the most of the moments down in Dallas. That was great running into you there.
Yeah, it was.
It was one of those things. I mean, that's such a hectic weekend.
Yes.
With my daughter cheering and 5,000 girls, and I think that weekend I was actually driving them to the gym every morning at like 6 in the morning because it was too cold, too far of a walk.
Yeah.
I'm glad that part of my life's over.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun. The memories are there, but...
So she's at OU now?
Yeah, she's at OU. She's a Alpha Phi, A-Phi, so she's rushed in and she's with the sorority. I pray to God he takes control of this and leads it where it needs to go.
Yeah, that's hard. It's really hard to totally let go of that and just trust God, like you said. I mean, yeah, that's all you can do. I mean, I feel that every day because my daughter left when she was her junior year, the summer between her sophomore and junior year. Her dad moved back to Germany, and so she wanted to spend the rest of her high school career in Europe, and I was like, heck yeah, why not? So I had to deal with that then, and that was a time where I had decided 8 years was enough for me. I was complete at the arena. I was kind of in a situation where I was assigned to a certain suite that the team took care of, and so it wasn't like I had an opportunity to make any more money than I was ever going to make there every season. You know what I mean? I was grateful for the money that I made. It was the bread while I was able to explore other things, do other businesses and things whenever I had my daughter as a single mom. But, I at least got child support, financial support to help with her, housing or however you want to lay it out there. You know what I mean? But I didn't have food stamps. I didn't have anything. So $800 a month in child support. And it was just her and I'm trying to live in a 3-bedroom house, and I'm working at the arena, and I'm only making about $20,000 a season there. You know what I mean? And so after a while, I always had to have other things. I mean, gosh, there were times where I was working 4 different places, doing 4 different things at once, just to make ends meet. So I got into a place where I was like, you know what, I think maybe I want a career, and I'm tired of hustling. And I'd gotten to, massage therapy is really taxing on your body if you're not taking care of yourself. Yeah. And I wasn't taking care of myself physically. I was stretched so thin, and I was working 8 hours a day, putting my hands on other people and trying to heal them. You know what I mean? And there's there's a thing about energy. When you lay your hands on people, you exchange that energy, and you have the potential of absorbing that energy from them. You know what I mean? And if somebody is going through things, and maybe they're a toxic person, or they're going through a lot of turmoil in their life, you can potentially absorb those things. They teach you how to protect yourself energetically in massage school. And I didn't know really anything about that then. And people would come to me asking me if I was a Reiki therapist, Reiki, and I was like, no, I don't know what that is. That's woo woo. I don't. And so I wasn't even open to it. But then now, on the other side of things, absolutely, it is something. I think the first introduction that I ever had with energy and how it impacts, how our vibe attracts our tribe, but more than that, how it impacts our tribe, and how our tribe impacts our vibe if you're not careful.
Yeah.
There's lots of studies out there about children that have cancer, and why do children have cancer? I mean, maybe is it their environment as far as their food? Is it lack of nourishment? Is it that kind of thing? Well, they'll be healed and they'll go into remission, and then they end up with cancer again. So I'm a firm believer that the people that we're around matters also. I mean, just as much like we were talking about with our kids and how we have to just throw it all up in the air and just total surrender when it comes to them leaving the nest, and how hard that is on us emotionally. But it's kind of the same type of thing with healing, you know?
Oh, and if you're an empath in any way, you're gonna feed off everybody's empathy.
Yeah.
Whether you want it or not. I am.
Yeah.
If I'm around people that are mad all the time, I feel my tensions rise.
Yes.
If I'm around people that are always, oh, why me, why me, why me, I feel it too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do have a small circle.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, the circle that I've created around me is just good friends that want to have a good time. They may have their problems, but they don't ever bring them to the friendship.
That's nice.
And they've gotten to a point, and it's taken years, but they've gotten to a point now where they'll open up and talk with me, because I open up and talk a lot. It took me a long time to get here. I'm not putting it back in the box.
Exactly. Yeah.
Once I got to where I can talk, I'm going to just keep talking and let it out. If you don't want to hear it, move on.
Yeah.
I'll talk to a mirror if I need to.
I'm the same way. That's what I told you earlier. Even if I don't have anybody that listens to this podcast, it is therapy for me.
Well,
more
now,
than
like I
anything.
was getting to though, is now that my friends are opening up, I see a couple of them that them voicing it and getting it off their chest. You can just see it's like, oh, your life's starting to get better.
Yeah.
I think you're starting to relieve some weight, and they're dealing with their own things, whether their parents had died of cancer, or their wife left them with their kid and took everything. They've got their own issues. Everybody has issues.
Yeah.
But it's been nice in my life, at least in these past 6 years or so, where I've seen that harder outer shell start to break.
Yeah.
And I think more men should probably step up and start looking internally and say, hey, I know we're raised to be tough. We're raised to be strong. And there's a preacher out there right now that's like, if you cry, that's female energy.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, he's saying that. And
Wow.
if you look it up, you're like, oh, I get where he's coming from, but he's wrong.
That's toxic masculinity.
I don't even believe in that. I think men are supposed to be masculine.
They
I think
are.
that is your job in life. You got to be the protector, provider, and take it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I think you got to be able to open up and admit some stuff.
Well, I think that is strength. That is
too.
being a man to
Yes.
me. You know what I mean? When you're able to do exactly that and have the hard conversations. You should. At the very least, should just be able to have the hard conversations with your children, as a man. You know what I mean?
It's so hard to do nowadays because they can tune you out so fast.
Oh, definitely. As they age, man, it's so hard.
And
you
then
have
once
to.
they get past the tuning out, it becomes to the defiance. And when my buttons get pushed, I tend to fall into marine mode.
Yeah.
So I have to be very conscious of that.
Yeah.
And maybe I overcorrect and I'm too soft at times, but I would rather be too soft than too hard, because I've seen me when I've been in my drill instructor screaming mode. Like, I don't want my kids seeing that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up too, because, there was a time, like I've said before, I was a very angry teenager and very, started in therapy very early, trying to work through that and figure out why that is. I mean, I knew why it was because I went through so many things and I felt so suppressed and suffocated my whole life because I didn't have a voice and I didn't have anyone sticking up for me. And, I mean, everyone was so busy and I went through a lot of things. That I saw a meme earlier, like protective mothers are the little girls that didn't have her to protect her when she was little. You know what I mean? So a lot of that kind of stuff that I've had to just be my own best friend and really coach myself through it. And also because of the mentors in my life, growing up the way we did, you often are encouraged or whatever. It's just natural to seek a religious mentor, you know what I mean? Because they are the ones that know best,
Mm-hmm.
and are not going to steer you wrong. And as far as what a lot, and I'll say in my experience, yes, there are a lot of great ones out there, but just because they're a pastor doesn't mean they're great. I mean, we've seen that in the news and priests and a lot of different exposure over the last couple of years, which I'm so grateful for. Because it's been going on for years and years and years, and then people want to, like, it's very controversial, the whole Me Too movement, but people wonder why people didn't say anything before. Well, if you kind of come up experiencing those kind of things and in environments where you don't have anybody to protect you or have your back in those kind of situations, then you don't tell anyone, you know what I mean? And then if you grow up in a family where you don't shame the family by airing any dirty laundry or anything like that, or if you grow up in a family as the middle child or the older child that is taking on all the roles and there's no room for your emotions or thoughts or feelings or opinions or anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just, it's hard. You get, I don't know. I grew up my high school years, I became very, very angry and very
You were forced to grow
hopeful.
up faster than you should have.
Yeah, very hopeless. I didn't see any future for me other than the military.
Mm-hmm.
As if that's a terrible, you have no other option. But I wanted that.
The military was never an option for me. I went to college and I realized this isn't for me, but I didn't have any direction. I had no goal, no direction. So
Really?
I'm out of school.
Yeah.
And, all it takes is that one mistake for me to go, maybe I should get some direction. That's the only reason I went, and it's been the best thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay in, do my full 20, but with a compressed fracture on my C4, and it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
But all the better. I mean,
God
everything works out in the end.
Yeah, God had a different plan. I used to get irritated when people would say, like, things happen for a reason, and like the cliche things like that people don't know what else to say, that kind of stuff. But now hindsight, like, I get it. I mean, and maybe it's my way of coping with it. And so I think, like, okay, so I was infertile and didn't get to have my own kids. And okay, God had a different plan for me. And maybe this was the plan the whole time and I just didn't feel confident enough to go there then. You know what I mean? Like, who am I to have a voice to talk about these things that nobody wants to hear about anyway? I should be tougher, quit being a pussy, like, that's how I grew up, what I mean? So it's, it's a fine line of, like, am I whining? No, I'm bringing light to things that need to be talked about so that we can choose differently. You know what I mean?
That's probably a reason as to why I've opened up and agreed to even come and talk with you on this podcast. I can count 8 of my friends from the military that have committed suicide.
Yeah.
I can count 3 outside of, military, 2 of which family that have committed suicide. And then, of course, the accidental overdose of my little brother, whichever way it was, I'm not the one to guess choose. I'll find that out when I get to meet my maker,
Yeah.
But just seeing that, it makes you really think, God, what if they had just opened up and taken some of that weight off their shoulders and realized that there's people around them that love them?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, I've had the thoughts. I
Yeah.
saw your tattoo. I've thought about getting that tattoo.
Yeah.
I've had the thoughts. I've had the issues. But once I started to unload them and just talk, even if I didn't truly release them, whatever the thoughts were, just talking and making myself vulnerable at times, it released a weight from my heart that allowed me to grow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm probably happier now than I've ever been.
Yeah,
So.
same. I'm the most peaceful I've ever been in my whole life. And I just feel like I just, like we talked about earlier, I mean, the things you go through really kind of solidify things for you. You know, it has a way of putting things into perspective. But I mean, seriously, we're not, the next breath is not promised. Nothing is promised other than hopefully what we've been told in the Bible. You know what I mean? That we're hanging our hats on. You know, I believe that more than anything in the world, but it's because I've experienced God too. You know what I mean? Like I since working through all of as much as I can, have been able to religious trauma and learning of a loving God, a supportive God. That everything that we ever need is written right there in Scripture, and Jesus tells us everything we need. Like really, there's like 3,000 something. I actually posted this the other day, okay? And I was like, when I came across this, I was like, how is this not the fundamental basis, foundation of every single religious conversation, every gathering that there is? How is this not our filter, right? How I said, I filter everything through efficiency first. If we can't make it the most efficient, and then we can move on to the next most important thing, right? But why is this not it? And it is. Oh, I downloaded it from online, so it has the thing with it. But this is the meme. And it says, and he said to him, rise and go your way. Your faith has made you well. Your faith has made you well. That's the part that I hone in on right there. Because to me, your belief is 100%. So let me clarify something really quickly, because I use 100% as like the absolute a lot. And I have oftentimes I'll hear somebody say like 1,000%, because it's like so much more important than 100% or whatever, you know what I mean? And then one time I heard this analogy, something about when it comes to like energy that you're expanding, okay, or whatever, if you think about it, like you've got all the way up to 100%, and 100% is 100%, like that's the whole, right? So theoretically, there isn't anything past 100%, except when it comes to like percentages and like increase, and when you're evaluating data and numbers and that kind of thing. So anyways, a lot of times I'll say 100%. And to me, I'm like, it's 1,000%, you know what I mean? But to everyone else, they're like 100%. Okay, well, maybe that's not that big of a deal then. But no, I just need to clarify that it should be the biggest deal of everything to me. Like what you believe matters the most. 100%, 1,000%, however you want to say it. There's no room for anything else. 100% belief is it. Because if you can emphatically believe, like unwavering faith about something, then you can experience it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you don't connect with that, if you don't really believe that you're worthy, and that you're worthy of receiving whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like it literally says that in the Bible. Like that's where I'm at with, like, Jesus taught a specific way of doing things. And I think that while everyone says that he's our Savior and he had it all right, he did. He had it right. You know what I mean? He had it 100% right. We're missing the mark. We are falling short of his message, which was our own power that God gave us, that is within us. We lean on Scripture for that, like, confidence. in that, right? The more that we can give ourselves positive affirmations, the more repetition, right? You gain confidence through repetition, right? So the more we read the word that says this specifically, then we gain confidence, right? But it's already there. If you believe it, if you believe what you're reading, and you believe that that is what happened, God really did give us the ability, our bodies, the ability to heal, our cells, the ability to regenerate, our organs, the ability to regenerate. It takes a certain number of days for certain organs to regenerate, but in the end, after time, your body, all of the cells in your body have been completely replaced within like a year's time, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have the ability through commanding our bodies in certain ways through the content that we absorb, the thoughts that we allow in, the things that people say that we accept and that we start to believe, right? Mm-hmm. That becomes our limitations, basically. If we give in to those, which is the devil, to me, that's the spiritual warfare part of it, those doubts.
Faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain.
Exactly.
I think that goes more than just one. That's not just faith in Jesus.
Yes.
Faith in the Lord. Because if you have the mustard seed faith in the Lord, He can make big things happen. But if you have a mustard seed of faith that you're going to fail, you say, I can't do this.
Absolutely.
You're going to move that mountain.
Yep, exactly.
You're going to fail.
Exactly. And thank you for saying that. That is the best analogy, like bringing that together and bringing that perspective to that specific saying, that term, that scripture.
That's where I found my acceptance of faith, and I don't question it. Say
Right.
It is what it is, right? Everyone says that. I have faith. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can have my faith pointed in this direction, or I can have my faith pointed in that direction.
Exactly.
Oh, I believe in God, but I have faith. I'm not going to be able to do this.
Yes.
Okay, you're going to move that mountain.
Exactly.
And I believe, hey, I have faith. I'm going to do this. I just did this. Last week, I had to go to Denver for some testing. It was 4 days of the most brutal testing because I was not prepared. My boss, when I got there, he walked me to the side and he said, we were supposed to have you come down to Dallas. You were going to go through all the systems you're going to be tested on. We're supposed to show you step by step how you're supposed to present it because you're doing it as if you are the guide, the manual. You got to do it step by step, everything.
Best way to learn.
When you're rebuilding multiple compressors, you could be talking 400 pages per compressor.
Oh my goodness.
My back was against the wall.
What do you do?
I'm going to cry. I had that faith of a mustard seed, and I passed.
Yeah.
And my boss looked at me and he said, holy crap, I did not think you could do that. You've impressed the hell out of me, and I'm taking it back to Dallas. I said, okay.
Wow.
Cool. I mean,
Congratulations,
it took me hours and hours of studying each night, but
you
I had nothing to worry about.
That if you focused on your goals and you stayed hopeful, it would happen.
Well, I'd already prayed about it, so
yeah.
The faith was there.
Exactly.
I just went in and did it, and
that's what it says, right?
Yeah.
That's what it says. That's how you pray. You pray as if it's already been done, and you feel as if it's already been done, and then you walk away and just have the faith that it's going to happen. But we constantly get in the way with second guessing because it hasn't happened in the timing that we thought it was going to happen, right?
That's the funniest lie we ever tell ourselves.
Yeah.
It didn't happen when I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Wish it'd been sooner.
Yeah.
Since when did you get to decide this?
Yeah. It's God's timing, God's plan. It's really hard to accept. It's hard. This is not an easy place to get to, and I don't recommend it. I mean, the things that we had to go through to get to this place where we are in our perspectives is not, I don't recommend it. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
And that's again why we're doing this podcast, because so that you can skip all that. I mean, if hopefully I just pray every time that this falls in the hands of the people that need it, and I just know that it will. And I don't care about the algorithm. You know what I mean? Like, if it just helps one person, that's what it was meant to do. You know what I mean?
What is your purpose? That's probably the best purpose, is to do it and let God handle the rest.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if you were gonna do this and broadcast it and try and sell it and get more people to listen, you're no longer doing it for him.
Exactly.
You're doing it for yourself.
Exactly.
Whether you think it or not.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of churches out there that do that, you know.
Yeah.
That I love Life Church. I love that it focuses into daily life, and it helps and it connects with kids these days because it's done in a different way.
Yes. They're reaching so many more people.
What you don't see them doing is, you know, selling a product. I mean, I guess at times they have their like night at the movies or whatever, where it's all the month of July.
They have their women's retreat every once in a while.
But they do some of those things that are let's get people in, but it's not let's do this. Let's go put up an ad on the TV. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do everything we can to get people in. We're gonna do this every year at this time.
Yeah.
If you want to come, please come.
Yes. Yes.
And when they do that inconsistency, like you're talking about with your podcast, it's going to bring them in. They're going to see it.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I love that. I feel that, and yeah, I just appreciate the conversation so much. Like I said, it's so healing for me, and I just want to share it with everyone that that we can. I just want to empower people to the life hacks, if you will, like the cheat codes, if you will. I mean, I do agree.
I like that, cheat codes.
I do agree that you have to experience a lot of things to gain perspective, but some perspectives are not meant to be. Maybe they are meant to be gained, but you can do a cheat code and skip right over it.
I wish I could have skipped over.
Right? Yeah. Same. I really do feel like I didn't need to have such a hands-on bird's eye view of some perspectives. You think you want to skip them, right? And you try to look for the silver lining and look for the gifts and the lessons and those kind of things in them. And I will say that, this cancer journey, I'm okay with it because I know that I'm resilient. I know that I have a purpose. I know that even beyond the podcast, my purpose is to show everyone that, you are what you choose. And life is kind of made up by just a lot of little choices, and the quality of your choices is kind of what determines the quality of your life. But even more so than that, I feel like the quality of your thoughts and your beliefs is what determines the quality of your life.
Absolutely.
But way more beyond just religious beliefs. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of where it's such a huge thing in my background.
But that's the one thing that I loved watching you is your holistic journey. I mean, if you want to go into, you can see the Christian that's dressed in a nice outfit on Sunday and telling you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, and they put on this face, but then they go afterwards to McDonald's.
Yeah.
And they have lunch there. It's more than the church. It's our choices on how we eat, cutting sugars down to a minimum. Get the dyed, bleached breads out of your system.
Yeah.
Those kind of choices, I think, fall under our religious life.
Yeah. Treating our body as a temple.
It's never been put together,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been my biggest deal, was getting my gut health right, choosing. I still eat like a fat kid sometimes.
I do too. I'm not gonna lie.
I like
actually
to have ice cream from time to time.
Yeah. Well, and I learned to relax with food. Okay, like I used to say everything in moderation, but then I also have kind of modified that to where I heard something recently, and I was like, that is it, because it's more about looking at that specific thing as like by itself and determining what portion of moderation of that specific thing is conducive to my goals, if that makes sense, right? Instead of everything in moderation, it's not all just everything 50-50, right?
Yeah.
It really, sometimes if you choose arsenic 50 times, that's probably going to kill you. It's probably more like, maybe like, however the number, you know what I mean? So figuring out that, like, learning how to compartmentalize again, and then apply that basically to life and all the different aspects of it. So not just my career or my finances, or but it's also the way that I feel about myself, feel emotionally, right? It's also how I feel spiritually. It's also how I feel physically, right? It's all of these things that collectively make up your lifestyle, that in the end, whether you guys want to believe it or admit it, or anyone, not, just anyone out there listening, whether we want to admit it or not. I think I heard Pastor Craig, I don't know if it was the most recent sermon, or if it was one that was playing after the most recent sermon. Sometimes we'll do that. I'll listen to him online a lot. But he said, I don't know if anyone's told you or not, but you're going to die. Yeah. And I was like, that's a funny way to put it, but I mean, it is. So, like, whether we realize it or not, this whole 1 step forward, 2 steps back type thing, that's where the moderation, everything in moderation comes in. Because, like you were saying, with bread and that kind of stuff, I mean, I've had to learn how to relax when it comes to eating, because I went through a phase of scared to death to eat anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, really, and then, like, it's going to cause cancer. It's going to feed my cancer. It's going to feed my hormones. It's going to feed my cancer. Like, my cancer is fed by my hormones, and it's going to feed my hormones. It's going to feed my cancer. And it's, like, oh my gosh, what, all the things. So, because I had influences of people that I thought were educated, that I respected, that knew more than I did, right? Because they were educated and respected, not regardless of my own research and knowledge, right? Education. So I followed what they recommended, and I developed a complex, a fear of eating anything that wasn't clean keto, like 0 bread, 0 hot dogs, 0 processed anything, 0 chips,
I still haven't,
0
can't get to that point.
sugar, 0 ice cream, 0, not even eating any sugar-free things, like literally cutting all of it out, because sugar-free is, if you turn it over to the back, which I got really on a soapbox about this one day, was at Walmart, and they had the sale on all their sugar-free candy, and I was like, really? I got so excited. I turned it over and I read the label, and it was like 0 sugar, but 20% sugar alcohol. I was like, what the fuck is sugar alcohol? Are you kidding me? It just broke my heart. So, it's just, that's, again, why I do this podcast and why I post the things that I do online about my journey, because it has been such a heartbreaking journey for me to figure out the things that I have been choosing, thinking they were healthy, that have been feeding my cancer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I've done mentally that have fed my cancer.
I believe 100% that mental starts and ends everything. Because I tried to get on that know this, know that, and that lasted all of about a week, and I said, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Let me just cut it down as much as I can.
And that is key. That is key to everything. Like, any goal in life is, I've got to stand up a little bit, and I'm probably going to go ground a little bit, my back. I've been nursing a back problem for a while, and have you ever heard anything about how we store trauma in our hips? In our backs?
No, but
our low back,
I probably do have it in my lower back. So.
Well, that's what I've heard. Recently, I found a chiropractor. I actually went to him when I first got back from Germany. So this was like 2011, and was having lots and lots of back problems then. Back in like my early 20s, I ended up, we were living over in Norman, and I came out here to 2005, sorry, to answer your question, is when they moved over here.
Yeah.
Totally That was hours.
You
That was
told
the
me.
first thing. Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Anyways, they, what was I saying before I said 2005? Back pain. I came out here to dinner, and by the time I got out here, I was driving a stick shift car then, and by the time I got out here, I could not walk. I couldn't stand up straight. What in the world is wrong with me? So ended up in the emergency room, blah, 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 blah. They did an x-ray, and I have scoliosis that I've had since I was a kid. It's not as severe, but I have enough.
Diagnosed with that too.
Yeah, I
went
have
to the
enough of
chiropractor
it
and he gave me an x-ray and he's like, you have a bend in your spine.
Yes.
So I'm actually going through the VA. They think that it developed from my neck break.
Probably. Because that's what the spine does. So anytime you do have some type of injury near your spine, to your spine, however, that's the foundation of everything, and your body will start to overcompensate, and because it's stuck in one place, it will start to move and form scoliosis. That's how it happens sometimes, lots of times. So anyways, I originally went to this chiropractor when I first moved back. I lived over there in Mustang, and Green Family Chiropractic is who it is, and my insurance paid for it then, and then quickly, within a couple of months, maybe a year, I ended up moving out to Newcastle and ended up in the physical therapy clinic, going through recovery from surgeries and sitting at the desk and doing the insurance stuff and scheduling and stuff. And then I ended up going to the same chiropractor that was here in Newcastle, and we would refer clients back and forth to each other, chiropractic and massage, because in my mind, all three is the best marriage. Let's talk about that for just a minute, because it's another soapbox, okay? And it has to do with holistic healing and what people don't realize. Like, so many people are fearful of chiropractic care, or they maybe had an experience and they were scared and it didn't come out great. They maybe did go to a quack. You know what I mean? Sometimes things happen. I can't tell you how many doctors and therapists I've been through. You know what I mean? But sometimes people have bad stories and they think they're crooks and, all kinds of different things like that. But my experience of them, for one, John, my mom's brother, was a chiropractor. Do you remember him at all? He became a chiropractor and ended up being the dean of anatomy down at Parker College in Dallas. It's a big chiropractic school, and so he taught anatomy for years down there, and then he taught it at OSU OKC also. He is a direct communicator and a very intelligent person, and he doesn't have the best bedside manner in his older years. So he was not a very liked professor in his later years, but he definitely is a wealth of knowledge. And he taught me a massage technique to work on trigger points that is totally different, and it's all about using energy, which is really weird. So this was in 2001. Remember, I was going through massage school and I was very closed off to Reiki and all the energy stuff. I was just getting into, like, being exposed to this, right?
Yeah.
And very closed off because that was woo-woo. I was very religious. That's not, God does not allow you to do those things. You're a witch if you do any of that kind of stuff. So I thank God something changed my mind, because my goodness gracious, the things that I am, like, standing in this ground right now is something that is forbidden as far as I grew up. Like, you can't do this. You can't do this with the intention of it healing you, because only God can heal you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I do believe that. But I believe that there's
God
a connection
this
point.
Earth, and He created our feet.
Exactly, that's God. That's God healing you. You know what I mean? Like, there's an analogy about this man overboard, and he says, I guess the people, the boat, it's going away, and he's like, it's okay, God will save me. And so he lets him go, right? And then they throw him the life raft, and he's like, no, it's okay, God will save me. And then here somebody comes, some other boat person, whatever comes by, and it's okay. God will save me. And then he drowns. He drowns and he gets up in heaven and he's like, but God, I thought you were going to save me. And God's like, well, I sent you a boat and a life preserver and another boat, and you turned them all away. Like, yeah. I tried to save you 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I feel about this whole holistic journey and repenting, changing my mind about my religious trauma. That's just how I don't know how else to really say it, because it totally took my power away. It, as far as I'm concerned, allowed me to succumb to that type of mentality that I allowed the negativity that I was creating in my own life through my own thoughts and feelings because of my unprocessed trauma and things like that. You know what I mean? And so it's just, I really feel like I wish people would be more open to God's creation and the loving God that he literally gave us every single thing that we need, whether it's within ourselves or the earth that is our home.
And that's kind of crazy too if you think about it. Think about just people our age. They say, man, I miss the days when we would run around in the yard with no socks and shoes and go barefoot.
Yes.
Like, there's a reason.
Yes. But we didn't know it back then.
When I'm working in the backyard, I don't have my shoes on. Yeah. That's what I loved about going to the lake, taking my kids to the lake.
Yes.
You're going to be out in the sand with no shoes on. Yes. You're going to be connected to that earth.
Yes.
It'll ground you.
Realize how healing
like, man, I love going to the lake. Yeah, the lake's fun, but it's probably because you need to be grounded.
Yeah, people don't realize why they're drawn to the things that they are, like the ocean and the beach and and we think it's, oh my gosh, it's to escape my life. I can go a whole other direction there too. That was literally the whole motivation for my website. Was we spend $4,000 a year to go on vacation to escape our life.
Yeah.
How about take a week's vacation, but it's a staycation, and I come to you, and either I stay at your house or you put me up in a hotel that's nearby, however you want to do it, but I will come there, and mostly in the mindset of like an entrepreneur, somebody that's ready to amplify their life, right? So I come there, we pick 2 rooms that you need help getting organized so that you can be motivated, right? Whether, to me, it's the kitchen and the office space, bedroom, office space, wherever you would be doing your work would be those 2 areas, right? Because most people, it's kind of just walking them through my journey. Like, it started with the overwhelm of what the hell to eat. Yeah. You know what I mean? And how to do that for myself when I needed fresh organic foods and I didn't have any money. You know what I mean? So I've been very resourceful over the years, figuring things out of how to live the lifestyle that we need to live to be healthy. But that's really only happened in, I think, the most accurate way over the last year. And I've been on this journey since 2013-ish. Probably before that, but just not realizing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But 2013 consciously on this journey. And so then I also went that real drastic journey in 23 is when I was first diagnosed. And at that point, I was determined to do everything holistically without chemo and radiation. I wanted God to heal me. I wanted God to heal me. I wanted God to heal me. And while I believed God would heal me, that it was capable, that I know miracles happen, I know God heals people all the time. It wasn't until I made the decision that I wanted to be here on this planet that I believed that I was worthy of being healed and that it could happen for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, that was the turning point for me. When I made that decision, everything changed. And the things that I was doing on a daily basis after chemo to help me get through chemo was this. standing in the dirt, standing in the ground, you know what I mean? And in the sun, and just thanking God for his creation and our ability to tune in to what he says to do to heal ourselves. You know what I mean? And I just really believe that he just led every step of the way. I mean, I've been all over the place trying to figure out what would work and what wouldn't and all the things. And that's kind of where I was going with the three, is I just really believe that all of it, like it's both and. Like we put so many labels and titles and prejudice and things on everything, and we'll totally close ourselves off to things that can heal us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That can be very impactful in a positive way in our lives.
I like what you said, this and. It's not this or.
Yeah.
There's so much power in that right there.
Yeah. Well, and actually I'll say that was my buddy. I mean, I've always said both and. But we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. I did a podcast on a hike through Oklahoma City. Did you know about Bluff Creek? Did you see my podcast?
I watched it.
Oh, you're awesome. I appreciate you doing that. That's awesome. That just made my whole day. Anyways, yeah, he was talking about how he brought up a statistic about trauma and about, you know, he's had his own journey with depression and things. But he brought up the statistic about gay men. He said, let me just talk about gay men. That 90% of gay men are neither born gay or chose to be gay. That they had some type of trauma that basically groomed them, conditioned them into choosing that was the safest way to be, whatever, however they rationalized it at that point. You know what I mean? But it wasn't that they were born, which is the argument is you're either born that way or you choose to be that way. You know what I mean? There's only two genders, all those things. Like we can have a whole discussion on that too. My experience is I have a lot of friends that are gay, however you want to, let's just say gay, because that's how I grew up. You were either gay or you weren't. And that meant you liked girls if you're a girl, and if you were a guy, you liked guys. Like, it wasn't weird like it is today.
No.
So, you know what I mean?
Today they've put too much on it. It's too much of a mental issue. It's
very strange. And I don't know, I'm not God, and I can't put God in a box for me. I just can't. There's so much that I don't know and that I will maybe never know until my time to be with God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I know that from watching the people that I know that are gay, that I care about, they've had a very difficult journey. You know what I mean? And it hasn't been easy at all. So I guess my message is just process your trauma in a healthy manner. Figure out how to do that, whether it's through a podcast conversation with somebody that has done the work to process trauma and knows a little bit about it and can lead you in a healthy discussion. You know, because I think sometimes it's hard for people because there's such an emphasis on religious leadership is the only way. And that if you don't choose that, then you're being misguided. And if you don't make God and religion and whatever your foundation and your every thought, then you're headed for a train wreck. And you're incapable of success. It's not going to happen for you, right? I mean, there's a lot of religious-minded people out there. This is, again, some of the religious trauma that I come from that I've had to work through, okay? And I don't believe that. I believe that we have much more power over our lives. Now, I do believe that, yes, you should have God in your life. You know, that is the way. And that when you do, it takes all the guesswork out of it. You know what I mean? It just makes everything easy. Like I feel like we wouldn't have to have gun laws and laws at all. And you know what I mean? If we taught people how to have a really connection with God and to let God lead your life and that kind of thing. But I feel like so many people maybe come from the space that I did, that it wasn't a loving God, and it was a fearful. You know, even, I don't know the exact definition, we would have to look it up, but even like the scripture that says like the fear of God, it doesn't actually mean the fear of God, like fearing God, like as in he's somebody that you should hide from, or fear his wrath, or that kind of thing. And even wrath, I think, is totally misinterpreted also. It's like having the passion of God, the belief of God. The wrath, I think, is, and I could be totally misquoting all of this, okay? Don't get me lying. I'll be the first to tell you that I don't really know. I hear things all the time, and I'll just investigate things, and I'm constantly like learning and doing, and you know what I mean, and trying to absorb. But I'm pretty sure the wrath of God means like the intensity, like with your whole entire being, your unwavering faith type of thing is what they're trying to describe in those terms. And we think it's what I learned to think is that it was the exact opposite of that. That it's literally God's wrath. He's going to condemn you to hell, and it's you better fear that every day of your life, because if you do anything that displeases God, you're going to hell.
I couldn't imagine living like that.
It was a lot.
That's probably rough. I was just raised, he died for our sins, so we don't have to worry, you know? You just accept and allow, and you're good. Even though you're going to fail, we're all going to fall short.
Yeah.
But it's that acceptance. It's that blind faith, taking that leap and saying, he died for me, I trust in him, and taking a step forward.
I'll never measure up. We don't ever, you know what I mean? It's God, it's Jesus. He was the only perfect one, right? Like, it's not something to stress about. It's like,
I don't stress.
You know, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? For people, like that's how I grew up, stressed about that. Yeah. And it's not. It's what you said. That's where I've had to come.
When I was younger, I kind of had that feeling. It was, oh God, fire, wrath. Yeah. I don't want to go there. Don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But being older and just kind of reading the Bible myself and studying it, and it's like, I don't need to stress. Yeah. The battle's won.
Yes.
And you don't have to change and get right to be a part of it.
No.
You just let him in and y'all work it out together.
Yes.
You'll figure it out together.
Yeah. It's a constant conversation for me. It's not anything separate. You know what I mean? And maybe that comes from a lot of my time by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's...
Self-reflection is usually the best, especially if you've got faith in your life.
Yeah.
Because you're going to self-reflect, but you're not alone when you're self-reflecting at that time.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. If you do it sober. That's one of the hardest things too, is like I have a friend right now she's just cold turkey everything. She's never had an alcohol problem, but she's felt like she's been dependent on marijuana, and she basically came out of antidepressants into marijuana and has used that medicinally, and it's helped her a lot. But she, for whatever reason, is being called to be completely sober right now. And so she has given up marijuana, and she's trying to give up nicotine, and she's battling big time with intrusive thoughts. And she's trying her best to be proactive about it and not allow them to take over and get her to a place where she often gets this time of year, especially when it's rainy or whenever the winter, because we're very active. We love to be outside and that kind of stuff. And it's just... So anyways, I don't know where I was going with all of that.
1 Thessalonians 5-8. It's crazy that you just brought that up. That was the one. So when I was in the Marine Corps boot camp, they needed what was called a lay reader. I didn't know what it was. I just volunteered and led prayer every night, basically, with the the Christians were in one corner, Buddhists were in another. They gave us like 10 minutes. It was my 10 minutes that I got to talk normal and not have to worry about being yelled at. So I was like, yeah, I'll be a lay reader. And that was the first verse I came upon was 1 Thessalonians 5-8, and it's just kind of been stuck with me. It's, let us be sober who are of the day, putting on the breastplate of faith and the helmet of love, I believe. I could have misquoted it, but
wow.
Reading deep into that, it's to have that relationship and to get those answers, you do need to be sober of the day.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
you know, I can't talk much on it because I like to drink. I don't drink heavy anymore, thank God. But
you know, I went through a phase in life where I did, so I'm allergic to alcohol. It gives me an anaphylactic response, and that I'm sure has a lot to do with my immune system.
Yeah.
Like if I were healthier, it wouldn't do that maybe. What I know now about our gut health and our allergies and food allergies and those kind of things, a whole other place. But anyways, I was getting off on a whole other tangent. My mind goes in like 45 different places when I say something, and I got to bring it back to what I was just talking about. But anyways, it's not easy to cold turkey life, man. And I just know that while I grew up on the farm next to my grandma and grandpa with my mom and dad and had aunts and uncles and cousins and everyone around me, and they were mostly like-minded. My dad was always very adamant about telling us since I've heard an analogy that is you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And growing up, he would just always tell us, you got to make sure you're careful about choosing your friends and the quality of people and, that kind of thing and your influences. But it's more than that. It's more than just picking good quality friends so that you make good choices and stay out of trouble.
You can pick bad quality friends and y'all can all grow together.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Exactly. And that brings us full circle, I believe, all the way back to where we began this whole podcast about racism and about prejudice and prejudices. How do you say that word? But that kind of thing. Like my whole adulthood, like I've just seen people for who they are and how they made me feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So after the military, I try to see people for who I think they can be. That's because
a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope, but a lot of them, they'll put on a mask too.
Yeah.
Like you said, you show me 5, I'll show you the 6th.
Yep.
They could have 5 around them, and they're playing that 6th part pretty well.
Yep.
And I can look at them and say, let's get rid of the BS. Let's talk for a second. I can see your soul. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need to see what color you are. I see who you are.
As a person,
yeah. And there's a lot of people that don't even look that deep. They go, there's 5, there's the 6, I'm good, and walk away.
Exactly.
Like, you might have been the one person that could have changed his life.
Exactly.
You could have been.
Yeah, yeah. I say it's a slippery slope because hindsight. And while I played my part in my failed relationships, I do encourage young people to really pay attention to the quality of people that they're spending time around, not just their friends, but their mate. You don't take the emotionality out of it. You have to approach your future just like we talked about with business, just like we talked about with relationships. You know what I mean? You have to take the emotionality out of it.
You gotta see a couple situations, see how they're handled. Everyone will tell you who they are if you just look.
Yeah.
You can see how they react, and that'll change. And I get where you're coming from with that. I can say, oh, I see she's going to be so great for me. She's going to be perfect. But I saw how she talked to her mom.
Yeah.
And I didn't pay attention to that sign.
Yeah.
And now we're 5 years down the road and she's talking to me like that.
Yeah. And she's baby mama now.
I projected onto someone something that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So, granted, you can see their potential, but you also have to see their intentions.
Yeah.
And you have to be wary and look at it, no nonsense business type.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say, look, I love this person, whoever it is, man, female, whatever, but I saw how they handled this one thing. It's just who they are.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't paying attention to that, and that's how they acted.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, and I think that's where, being sober helps a lot too. I know, and I'm not just talking about alcohol, because there are, for every person that is addicted to a drug or alcohol or marijuana or mushrooms or whatever we want to call it, it doesn't matter. There are just as many or more on prescription drugs. And I feel like those are more often abused and much more potent, for sure. Sometimes it can really be. I mean, well, and then look at how it happens with our youth. I mean, my bonus son in my previous marriage, one pill can kill. You can hashtag that and look it up and find his story. I mean, he thought he was taking something like a Molly or something like that, and it was laced with fentanyl, and he died. And the kids were all at home by themselves, and he was out in the driveway, and the younger siblings found him in his car. And it's absolutely horrific. But I don't know if maybe if we didn't have such judgment about natural, holistic things, then we wouldn't have as many people addicted to synthetic, more potent, very dangerous drugs.
Yeah.
So, took us a minute to get there. Took me a minute, but
we got there.
But we got there. So I guess that's the message. Like, just love on people. Just love people. That's where the peace is at. Just loving and understanding people and where they're coming from, and realizing that we're all on our own journey. And just because somebody isn't, have you ever been around people that will compare their pain or their suffering?
Mm-hmm. I've done it before.
I've done it too. The reason so many of the things that I talk about, it's because I have that perspective, because I've been there. I've grown through that. I've grown from that. You know what I mean? There was a place where in 2013, 14, that I just got really, 2013, I got really, really fed up. I was so sick of being a sick and tired person. And I was tired of my conversations being about the way that I felt physically.
Yeah.
I was sick of it. And I guess maybe it was intuitively realizing that I was going to be feeding that energy. The more you talk about your problems, the more you're giving energy to them. I feel like it's one thing to discuss them and process things, but it's another to just every day, Groundhog Day, experience the same pain and complain about the same pain. And you know what I mean? I feel like it's different when it comes to the energy that you're putting with it. So,
oh yeah, 100%.
That's kind of what prompted me. I didn't know anyone else around me that was feeling the way that I did, or that related to it. Everybody kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and I didn't know any doctors that would tell me anything other than I needed an antidepressant. And massage school was the best thing that I ever did, because that introduced me to 2 chiropractors, a couple, husband and wife, and they got me paying attention to detoxing your body, detoxing diets, whole foods,
I do
all
once
of
a month. I do a detox.
Do you? Do you just do a fast, or do you do a specific?
Oh, I'll do a fast, and then I'll have cranberry juice or something for the nighttime after that 24 hours, just to get any of that garbage out.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'll have to look it up and see what it is, but they recommended back then, it was like doing several extended fast, however you end up doing that. I've recently learned, this is another thing, there's so many things that I've learned on this holistic journey over the last, I say, like, I've been on it forever, but in the last year, I've really learned a lot of things that have been like the most impactful, I think. Well, I've made a whole lot of really great strides in the right direction over the years. There's a lot of things that I've done over the years that actually were doing worse. They were having a negative impact on my overall health, and I didn't realize it. So like in my early 20s, all through my 20s, I had a very low fat, no fat diet because I was worried about fat and my husband was worried about fat. That's what his thing was. And so I followed him in his whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just being supportive. And that is one of the worst things a woman can do, is deprive her body of fat. You have to have fat to be healthy. Yeah. For your brain to be healthy, for you to produce the right hormones, like everything, you have to. And that was not something that I knew, and I spent 10 plus years of my early adulthood in that type of thought. Yeah. And consuming that, you know what I mean? And what happens whenever you remove fat, oftentimes, like if you're buying no fat products or low fat, they replace the fat with sugar. Yeah. So you're just consuming more sugar, which also contributes to the decline of your health. So things like that. But then in the most recent year, there's so many things out there that they have found that have been beneficial for people with different types of cancer. But with my specific type of cancer, they are not. It's the exact opposite. Because this particular type is fed aggressively by my hormones, anything that, a lot of times, a lot of the things that they will tell you to do has ended up feeding my hormones, which has ended up feeding my cancer. Something as simple as a castor oil pack, which is something that is holistic, that has been around for thousands and thousands of years, that is very healing, that you can use to heal anything, as well as pulling toxins out of your body and that kind of thing, has the exact opposite effect on my cancer. So it's a very, very overwhelming thing. Like, living is not easy. And being healthy is not easy. It is overwhelming for people. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I appreciate the conversation.
It's been great.
Yeah. I feel like, we've touched on
somebody can get something out of this.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
If just me and you got something out of this, that's awesome
great.
too.
It was great, for sure. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Random Thoughts Some Useful. If this spoke to your soul, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, share this with your friends and family, or even leave us a review. And come find me on all platforms at Apothecarying Jen so we can stay connected. Until next time, stay grounded, stay high vibe, and stay true to you.